Greetings and salutations. Once again, I'm your humble host, trying hard not to talk about Uncle Scrooge anymore, at least not often, completely all the time, Steve. And I'm here with a few thoughts on recent comics. Last week, I had a couple of weeks worth of comics to catch up on, and it was quite a pile, and it went through, and it was long. And part of the reason I'm reminding you of that is because different weeks come feast and famine to a degree, and some weeks you get a big pile of comics like that. You got a whole sort of, you know, spoiled for choice, and I could have picked one or two and I would have been fine. And this past week I came out of the comic book store and I had 3 new books. So let's talk about all 3 books. Not all at the same time, but one at a time. We have Daredevil 512, the pretty much the end of the Shadowland cycle for the mainstream Daredevil book. You have the costumes burning and all that. And one thing I will point out that I did like, even though I wasn't reading Shadowland, it tells you very handily to read Shadowland 5 first. So, much as I've been doing with some of the other collections or the bigger stories that Marvel's been doing that intrigue me, but not enough to actually get the 30 books that it would entail to get the entire story all at once, I've been reading just Daredevil because I had already been getting that and trying to see how that filled in the pieces for Shadowland as I was reading just that book and not getting the main thread miniseries. And the weird thing that Daredevil was doing was basically focusing on a lot of the peripheral characters, not really... Daredevil barely appears in the last few issues at all, and we get him here just pretty much to wrap up that storyline. So there's just enough here to tell me what happened in Shadowland. Maybe not the full details, but enough so that as someone who was reading Daredevil for the past however many years it's been, I went, okay, I can see what happened. This is what we were building up to, and then here's all the main story was off to the side, and I got to kind of see the results of what occurred. So in that regard, I do think it worked. It set up the new status quo for the book, and while I'm intrigued only because I've seen previews, and I'm trying not to give anything away in the event that you haven't seen these previews and haven't read the book yet, because there are some rather significant variations going on here. It's going to be pretty much on one of those we'll give it a test, we'll see how this goes sort of things. I'm not so excited where this is just going to, I can't wait and this is going to be great. It's more one of those, all right, this could be interesting, this has got some potential in it, we'll see where this goes. So this might be a couple more issues and then cutting out, or might be enjoying it. Also got Kolchak, The Night Stalker Files, #1. So, I have to say this only because I'm sure there's somebody going, who this is. Kolchak was originally... Actually, I'm not sure. I think it was originally a book. A couple of short books, and they were turned into TV movies back in the early 70s, and then that turned into a brief television run. Not even a season, and then it kind of sat for a while. But as you may be able to tell from the cover art, it's more discernible from the cover art more so than the art inside the book, which is not bad. It has its moments, certainly. It's got scenes and everything that do work, but Kolchak is a little less discernible, being drawn as the actor that portrayed him for many years on and off, Darren McGavin. There was an attempt to revive the series a few years ago with someone else, and that did even worse than the original from that, which is odd because the concept is very basic, very simple, and you would think it would work. Kolchak is a newspaper man who stumbles across weird, supernatural type events and gets all the information on him and manages to defeat the monster in the end, but then of course no one believes him. All his evidence gets destroyed because no one wants the story to get out because it would just cause panic. You got a vampire, nobody wants to actually believe in vampires, and guys that come back every 100 years or so to strangle more women so that they can live, and things like that. So the concept is basic enough. I think the problem is for the show that it ran into that kind of that Murder, She Wrote style thing where you sit there and go, why does anybody actually spend time with Jessica Fletcher anymore? Because everywhere she goes, someone dies. Badly. And that's kind of the same thing. Kolchak just kept running into, things and weirdness and stuff like that. And it just, I think it was interesting for the occasional story, but not so much necessarily for a running show, at least not in the 70s when the effects were different and expectations were different and all that sort of thing. But that said, he has been revived in comics a few times now from Moonstone, and this was a good story. Like I said, the art was serviceable and occasionally quite good. But at the same time, it was Kolchak now. So if you enjoy the concept, if any of that sounds intriguing, yeah, then go for it. Give it a try. I think you'll like it. It is something that I've long enjoyed, but there's nothing fantastically new here. We're not going to reinvent Kolchak or anything like that. And that's probably a good thing. And then last, certainly not least, and I said I wouldn't talk about Uncle Scrooge, but we have Walt Disney's comics. We used to be comics and stories, and the instinct was there to say that. Issue 713, more good art. There's two stories in this one. The main one is the first part of what I believe is a two-parter where somebody's coming and for lack of a better expression, attacking Goofy's extended family while they're trying to win create a new soda flavor contest thing. So they're like being hypnotized more so than attacked, but it's like, oh, now you're an airplane, and for members of the Goof family, them deciding that they're suddenly going to be an airplane or a moose or something like that doesn't really seem like that too much of a stretch. So it's an interesting little story, and I'm amused by it, as I should be, but there's no tenderhooks. It's just curiosity, which is all good, because you really don't have any good explanation as to why the bad guys are doing what they're doing. And there's also a backup story, the Goofy look at romance, which did remind me rather a lot of some of the old shorts that they would do, the cartoon shorts where, Goofy explains how you play football and stuff like that. And so it was just this little goofy, I guess no pun intended, because that just came to mind, look back on history and things like that, trying to look at it with a silly point of view. And I've talked far too long for just 3 books, so I'm going to stop now. And the burbling is completed. So thank you for paying attention if you have bothered this long. I almost managed to not mention Uncle Scrooge, even though Uncle Scrooge is awesome. And that's where I'm going to leave this for now, because that's what I think for the moment, and I'm going to stick to it.